Well, good afternoon and welcome to the 2024 Manufacturing Summit. My name is Ian McLean and I'm the President and CEO of the Greater Kitchener-Waterloo Chamber of Commerce. Before we get started this afternoon, I'd like to acknowledge that today's event is being held in Guelph. While gathered here this afternoon, let us take time to reflect on our privilege to live and work in Guelph, a city built over rich Indigenous histories, with specifically the Attawandaron and Haudenosaunee peoples. Collectively, we have a responsibility to care for this land, the people who live here today, and the generations to come. If our actions today can move us towards reconciliation, we should take pause and make those decisions with intention and gratitude. As participants in today's event, we are coming together as one. We believe everyone is free to be their true self and receive the same respect and opportunity, regardless of age, ethnicity, gender, culture, identity, sexual orientation, beliefs, or language. We hope you'll join us in fostering a positive environment here today to ensure a safe and welcoming space for all. For those who have not attended the Manufacturing Summit before, the event has been held locally, sponsored by our chamber for over 10 years. And it's due to the importance and relevance of the industry in our region and right across southwestern Ontario. Our region is currently the fourth largest manufacturing center in Canada by percentage of manufacturing employees. For over 150 years, our community has embraced manufacturing. We are home to more than 1,850 manufacturing companies and supply chain in diverse sectors such as automotive, aerospace, robotics, food processing, plastics, and fabricated metals. This summit brings together industry experts and their leaders to discuss topics including talent, AI, advanced manufacturing, processes, supply chains, tech, and so much more. This year, we are thrilled to be hosting this event in partnership with our good friends from the Guelph Chamber of Commerce and CEO Shakiba Shayani. Guelph's advanced manufacturing companies led by Canadian and international leaders like Magna, Polycom, Worth Canada, and of course our host for today, Linamar, are already building the economy of the future right here in Guelph. And that's why we're so fortunate to be hosting this event in Guelph at the Frank Hasenfratz Center for Excellence in Manufacturing. In a moment, I'm going to invite Shakib up here to MC today's first event, but first I'd like to take a moment to thank our sponsors. As with all chamber events, whether it's Guelph or KW, these events and programs wouldn't happen without the continued support of our partners and sponsors. So a special thank you today to our gold sponsors, the Business Development Bank of Canada, Conestoga College Institute of Technology and Advanced Learning, Cowan Insurance Group, Export Development Canada, Miller Thompson LLP, MNP LLP, Streamline Plan Solutions, Toyota Motor Manufacturing Canada, and the Waterloo EDC. Our silver sponsors today, Next Generation Manufacturing, a bronze sponsor, Cushman & Wakefield Waterloo Region, and our community partner, EY. Our ambassadors and partners that we work with are the Center for Family Business, Excellence in Manufacturing Consortium, and the City of Kitchener. So please join me in welcoming and thanking these incredible sponsors. Now I take great pleasure in welcoming my good friend and colleague, Shakiba Shayani, the President and CEO of the Guelph Chamber of Commerce, to the stage. Shakiba.
Thank you so much. It's a real pleasure to be here with so many of you and to be co-hosting the event with Ian and the Greater KW Chamber of Commerce. Guelph and the Greater KW Chambers are strong advocates of our region. Not only do we work together regularly, we also collaborate with our counterparts along the innovation corridor. We foster the economic and social prosperity of our members and our communities. Ian and I are very proud of how competitive, innovative, and productive our region is, particularly in the manufacturing sector, but also in so many other industries that support the manufacturing sector. And so speaking of which, I'd like to recognize the exhibitors that are here today with the booths around the expo. We have the Business Development Bank of Canada, Conestoga College Institute of Technology and Advanced Learning, Cowan Insurance Group, Export Development Canada, Miller Thompson LLP, Next Generation Manufacturing, Streamline, Apex Occupational Health Solutions, Costco Wholesale, the City of Guelph, Dynac, Frank's Maintenance Products, Glass of Learning, Jocelyn Insurance, Lane Logistics, the Ministry of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, Ontario Corporate Training Centre, Part-Time CFO Services, Porchlight Relocations and Executive Residences, Riley Cooper Group, Teowa Inc., Tempo Tech Controls, and the University of Waterloo. Thank you to all our exhibitors. I'd also really like to take a moment to thank Linamar for hosting us here today at the Frank Hasenfratz Center of Excellence. Linamar is a global leader in manufacturing solutions and world-class developers of highly engineered products. They employ more than 10,000 people here in Guelph and are important community partners of ours. I did want to also flag that there is a digital guide that was sent out ahead of today's event, listing all of our incredible speakers today. We encourage all of you to follow up with them throughout the afternoon and following the program for further discussions. Today's program is streaming live to LinkedIn and will be made available as a recording following the event so that it can be shared with colleagues and clients across the sector. Please also note that a link was provided in the digital guide to the 2024 Advanced Manufacturing Impact Report regarding Industry 4.0. This report was published by Canadian Manufacturing and sponsored by two of our partners of today's event, EMC and MNP. And we encourage you to access this report for a lot of great insights and analytics. So with all the logistics behind us, I'm so thrilled now to announce and introduce our first panelist. It will be yours truly speaking a fireside chat with Jason Myers. Jason is the Chief Executive Officer of Next Generation Manufacturing Canada, Canada's advanced manufacturing supercluster, an initiative funded by the Government of Canada that will leverage more than $500 million over the next 3 years in collaborative, industry-led projects aimed at building world-leading advanced manufacturing capabilities all across Canada. Jay is an award-winning business economist who specializes in industrial technological change, and between 2007 and 2016, he served as president and CEO of Canadian Manufacturers and Exporters, Canada's largest industry and trade association. Jay has been widely recognized as one of the most influential economic policy advocates in Canada, and he is an advisor to both private and public sector leaders and has counseled Canadian prime ministers and premiers, as well as senior corporate executives and policymakers around the world. He is a member of the advisory board of the World Manufacturing Forum and a leading advocate on the world stage on behalf of advanced manufacturing in Canada. Please help me in welcoming Jason.
I was looking for the fire.
Toasty. I've made the mistake of not having the time on me, so I'm going to look to my team to raise a hand at 1:40, because that's when I know I need to wrap us up and get us moving to break. So I'm just going to put that out there. But
And just raise the hand, not the finger. And the,
ideally, just your full hand. Thank you. Yes. Okay, so to start, Jason, I've mentioned a little bit about you and your bio, but I'm really hoping we can spend some time with you providing some real context and depth into, so what is NGen, what does it do, and what's the background, what's brought us here?
Sure. I'll try to keep it short, and a lot of people in this audience have been really instrumental in helping us, both leading and supporting the organization, helping us set up. So NGen is Next Generation Manufacturing Canada. We were formed in 2018. Largely to lead an initiative from the federal government called Supercluster Program. We were nominated to be the organization that led Canada's Advanced Manufacturing Supercluster. It's been rebranded. Now we're leading Canada's Global Innovation Cluster for Advanced Manufacturing. But we're an industry-led, not-for-profit organization. Linda Hasenfratz is our chair. Really appreciate her leadership and great support there. But what we do is build world-leading advanced manufacturing capabilities for the benefit of Canadians. It's a lot more difficult than you would think, and that we thought as we were starting out. But we were, I guess maybe first of all to explain our business model. What we are doing now is raising public and private funding to invest in collaborative and transformative projects that really build world-leading capabilities in manufacturing, trying to link the great research and technology and manufacturing capabilities we have in this country, and of course the skills, the colleges, the research as well. And also invest in initiatives to strengthen our, I don't know if I really like this word or not, but Canada's advanced manufacturing ecosystem. And what I mean by that is all of the networks, the linkages, the programs, the business services that are available to support advanced manufacturing in Canada. So those are the things we invest in, and I really have a huge debt of gratitude. You were mentioning or asking about how we started up. We wouldn't be here if it had not been for the leadership of people like Ian McLean and all of the chamber movement right across Southern Ontario, without the leadership of some manufacturing leaders like Linda, without the support of economic development organizations like KW and Tony here, without the support of the colleges and universities, and Tony Thomas sitting over here. So we've got a lot of friends in the audience who have been with us right from the very beginning. But everybody with this vision about how do we connect the world-leading research, the technology, and manufacturing in a much more effective way to drive innovation, but at the end of the day to drive prosperity and good outcomes for Canadians, whether that's environmental improvement or food security, health and safety, especially during the pandemic.
Excellent, thank you. And for everyone's sake, how does NGen define advanced manufacturing? I know you said it's maybe an overused word, or this idea that it's an ecosystem. Tell us a little bit about what captures that, the definition.
Well, I think for us, advanced manufacturing is certainly more than manufacturing, and it's more than technology. A lot of it is around people, leadership, management. But what we're really trying to do is look at how we use technology and all aspects of technology. How do we integrate technology and research to develop new solutions, transformative solutions for manufacturing? So it's more of I would say more of a movement, more of a process than something that is there, because you can be an advanced manufacturing company one day and out of business the next, unless you're keeping up with what you need to do to run an effective business, a profitable business using technology. But it's not about technology alone. It's about how that technology is managed. It's about the people and the leadership, strategic leadership, and frankly, very good business and manufacturing practices as well.
Great. So I'm wondering if you can let folks know about what the actual experience of being a partner or working through an NGen program or being a part of the cluster looks like. You've mentioned that there's small and large businesses, post-secondary institutions, public sector institutions. How do these folks come together, and how would those who are interested in being connected, how might they connect?
Well, first of all, invite everybody to go to our website, ngen.ca. Become a member. I have a background in industry associations, and I know that membership is often seen to be excruciatingly expensive. Our membership is free, so it's a pretty good deal. But what it does is get you on a mailing list. It lets you know what we're doing, and then you can apply for as a member. You can apply to be a part of our projects, a part of the support system that we offer. Take advantage of some of the partnerships and programs that we're running in education, manufacturing leadership, strategic development. A lot of good support programs, as well as, of course, being a part of our projects. What we're trying to do at NGen, our strategy, is to bridge this gap between all of the great research and technology and startups we have in this country on one hand, and manufacturing on the other. We have the tech companies who find it very difficult sometimes to commercialize their technology, and manufacturers on the other who find it often very difficult to adopt the technology. And I think part of that problem is not just a matter of who's recognizing who's doing what, although there are a lot of challenges just in terms of being able to identify who has what capabilities across the country. I got lots of stories about that. But it's really, how do you create the solutions that companies, manufacturers can manage, can afford, that add value to their process or add value to the product? And that's a lot more difficult to do than simply bringing companies together. So our strategy is to look at how we integrate technologies to develop brand new solutions that can be then commercialized across many manufacturing sectors. I'll give you an example. One of our projects with Dofasco brings together about 5 or 6 different companies, technology companies. Dofasco wanted to digitize their hot ladle steel process and effectively did that. It was the first steel company in the world to be able to digitize, basically telling when it's ready to pour a vat of molten steel, and the reason they wanted to do this is because a lot of the people who are working at Dofasco right now, who have the expertise of knowing when to pour steel, are retiring, and they needed something just about as good. So need to digitize this process, and we helped Dofasco bring together a team of IoT experts, materials researchers, automation companies, sensor companies, to develop this solution for them. We helped put that partnership together. And as a result of that, these companies have developed a solution basically to handle hot hazardous liquids that they are now, have formed their own company, and that they are now commercializing that solution with chemicals and pharmaceuticals and food processing. So it's a really good model of what we're trying to achieve. But sometimes, this is the importance of integrating technology, the importance of being able to develop a solution that's manageable by manufacturers. It's so important. It's very difficult to do, but it's so important. I often say, manufacturers know they have a challenge. They want to go from A to B. They think they want a car. And technology companies often come with a pair of tires. And then the challenge is, how do you build a car from a pair of tires? And often the manufacturer gets into trouble if they think they can do it themselves. On the other hand, you might meet a vendor who says, I can sell you a $350,000 car, only to find out you don't need a car in the first place, you just need a scooter. So it's really getting down into really recognizing what it is you need in terms of a solution, what will drive value through your product for your customer, or drive value through your process by making it much more efficient, much more profitable at the end of the day, then focusing on those critical processes and determining then what sort of solution you need. Maybe you don't need a technology solution at all if it's a management issue. But then selecting the solutions that are most appropriate and being able to work on an integrated basis, bringing various technologies, various skills, various types of solutions together to get to the business objective that you want to achieve. So that's what we try to do, and it's not just about giving out money. In fact, that's the last thing we do. It's about shaping the solutions. It's about finding partners, technology partners, academic and training partners. So we've just finished up 165 different projects across the country. In fact, a third of our projects, where all of them are collaborative, but a third of them are interprovincial collaborations. There were 372 industry partners, and as I mentioned, we have some of the largest companies in the country that are part of that. Linamar, Magna, Martin Rea on the automotive side, but also MDA and Suncor. They're all part of this. But 90% of our project partners are small companies. And we're giving them an opportunity that they wouldn't otherwise have on their own because they're partnering in a larger solution, and which is very, very important. So 165 projects, 372 industry partners. We have 311 academic and research groups that are working with us, so well over 600 and almost 700 project partners altogether. And this strategy seems to work. In the first round of funding, we invested $215 million. That was matched by industry. The total investment was actually about $700 million in these projects. But great success. We've had the revenue that's been created in basically 3 years, top $7.2 billion, so 32 times the amount that we've invested has been generated already in terms of sales, and created 55 new companies. And when I talk to government about how we use taxpayers' money, is tell them that for every dollar of taxpayers' money that we get, in our funding that we've been able to invest, we've returned 5 times that amount back to the Treasury in terms of taxes as a result of these sales. So, it's a very successful model. It's not a tech push model. We've had too much of that. And it's not just, we're not just waiting for industry itself or for manufacturers to connect with individual technology companies. We're really working to put together the types of collaborations that are required to really go the next level. Really transformative projects that are very close to commercialization potential and have a great commercialization potential on a global basis, but developing that business here in Canada.
Excellent, thank you. It is quite impressive. And just to go back to something you mentioned about, how manufacturers improve performance through technology, it sounds like being really clear about what you're trying to do is key. I heard that that's a priority. Do you have any other advice about what manufacturers should be thinking about? And then what is it they should do if they want and need your advice?
Well, when we started out, we worked with StatsCan to put together a survey of manufacturers and technology companies. There are about 5,000 technology companies and 6,000 manufacturers that were involved in this survey. First question we asked was, do you do any competitive benchmarking? This was trying to get at kind of a strategy question here. 7% of the manufacturers who responded do competitive benchmarking. So 93% of manufacturers across the country are basically working in the dark. That's better than the tech side because when 95% of our tech companies don't do any competitive benchmarking either. So business strategy and leadership, I think, is priority number one. The survey then went on and asked, have you invested? They had a list of about 35 different advanced technologies, some of them not as advanced now, because the survey was done in 2018. But the good news was 80% of the manufacturers said that they had invested in one of these technologies in the previous 3 years. That was the good news. The second question then was, why did you invest? What were your business objectives? Was it product improvement or process improvement, new product development, regulatory compliance? Got the answers back. And then the really interesting question, did you achieve your business objective as a result of your investment in technology? 50% said no. 15% said that they didn't know. 35% said yes. And, that's not too far off. I'm sure if you ask MNP and some of the other business consultants who are focusing and specializing in advanced manufacturing, they can tell you too that right now it's about 65-75% of industrial digital transformations fail. And I think the reason is because companies see these as tech deployments only. And they're not. The technology is just a tool. And unless you've got your business objectives clearly set, unless you know what the critical processes are to support those business objectives, and unless you can look into those critical processes and look at where an improvement in the process or in the product would actually drive value for you or for your customer, then don't jump into technology. All of those questions come first.
Thank you. That's useful. And speaking of a tool in the toolbox, can you speak a little bit to how artificial intelligence is impacting manufacturing and any advice you have about picking that tool up?
Yeah, so that's a really good question. It's a good illustration of what I was just mentioning as well. So everybody's, well, let me ask you this question. How many people in this room use AI in some way? Oh, that's good. That's good. I asked that question in Newfoundland and nobody put their hand up. And clearly nobody has a cell phone already or, uses Google. AI is a tool, and it's a pretty powerful tool here, and there are a lot of business requirements or a lot of requirements for anybody who wants to use it. But, we talk about AI a lot, and it's getting a lot of media right now. It's a very powerful tool to do a few things. To look at and analyze information, to be able to draw information, the right information you need out, and then to analyze that information. It's a pretty powerful tool as a system of prediction, and it's, of course, when deployed in product, can lead to all sorts of improvements in autonomy and the way that the products work. So, to me, those are the capabilities that AI can do. The key question is, in my mind, not where in your business could I use AI, but where in your process would a system of prediction help you improve the process? Where in your product line would a deployment of autonomy or a better way of getting information or providing that information to your customer, how would that add value to your business? Those are the key questions before anybody jumps into AI. But it's the same question for any technology. As I said, the technology is a tool, but unless you actually know why you're using it and use it effectively to drive your business results, that it's not going to be effective. The other part of AI, along with every other technology, is not only do you have the right idea about how you would use it and what solution you need, but do you have the business requirements in order to effectively and profitably deploy the technology? And in AI, there are three things that are really important. One is, is your data of high enough quality that it can actually be used in an AI system? And so there are a lot of, there's tons and tons of data, and especially today, manufacturers are collecting data from everything. But in many cases, that data can't be used, or it has to be qualified, validated, shaped in a way that AI can effectively use it. So data requirements. Secondly, of course, do you have the information systems and the management systems in place to use this effectively? AI works really well when it's managed as an information system. It doesn't work well as a tool to do specific things if you're not sharing information across your company or with your supply chain, or with your customers. That's where the real power comes from. And then the third element, of course, is people. do you have the people with the skill sets and with the vision about how to use AI effectively? I was at this week down in Ottawa and talking to the National Research Council about home building. And right now, the ability of home builders to use AI and automation systems to transform home building from a construction activity into an advanced manufacturing process, and this is in large part being driven by applications of AI here, but it's pretty powerful. And on one hand, people at the NRC were talking about, how this is really going to be very transformative in home building. On the other hand, they're talking about developing a catalog of blueprints for homes, and say, with AI, you don't need a catalog of blueprints because AI can automatically reconfigure your automation system and your robotic system in order to develop that mass customization that is really at the heart of advanced manufacturing and standardization as well. So, I think AI is forcing everybody to, or should be, to look at things differently about how important data is. Like every product, every platform, every process is a data platform today, and it's how can manufacturers, in a way, transform their business. It's no longer getting product out the door. It's how do you use the data effectively in order to drive value for your customer, value through your process. And that's a very different business model than simply getting stuff out the door.
And just quickly, can folks work with NGen to help identify the right tool and the right people and other things that are required to deploy this effectively?
Yeah, absolutely. Take a look at our website. We've got a number of programs that are really focused exactly on that. One of them, our Transformation Leadership Program, helps take people through sort of a step-by-step decision-making process, beginning at how do you create value for customers, what are your critical processes, how do you approach this question about where the bottlenecks are, how do you identify areas of improvement, to then looking at how do you assess solutions, how do you assess technologies, how do you assess your business requirements. So that's an important part of what we do. We also have a Future Ready program, which provides support for training and placements. There we've, over the last year, placed over 800 new workers in manufacturing and taken them through a systematic training process. And both in terms of newcomers to Canada, but also upgrading and reskilling workers in the manufacturing sector. So those are two very important programs that we offer, along with support for developing IP solutions, IP strategies, commercializing IP, and then of course the financial support for these collaborative projects too.
Excellent, thank you. I do want to spend a minute talking about another key tool of productivity, which is people, like you mentioned. I know that our Workforce Planning Board of the regions in the room as well. I'm wondering if you can speak to, if there is, to what extent the skill shortage looks like in manufacturing and perhaps what NGen's role inside of that is.
There's a huge labor shortage, which is driving a skill shortage in this country. 30% of our current workforce in manufacturing will retire in the next 10 years. And the number of young people coming in, the cohort 30 years or younger, like me, represent about 5% of the workforce. So you guys can do the math. Here you need a 25-30% improvement in labor productivity just to keep output constant. So the only way you can do that is through some form of adoption of new technology, automation, which then leads to the skills issues. here? Where do you find the people with the right, as you know, we talk a lot about skills. Really, it's competencies today. It's this mixture of skills. It's the ability to actually do a job that is, and a number of jobs that is really important here. So, you know, I think that means a few things. One is it's really going to take a much greater focus on automation. Second is that, you know, we don't just graduate people now and that's the end of it and they're going to have these skills for the rest of their life. It really has to be a work-integrated, lifelong learning system. And the third thing I'd say is, you know, we have the capabilities that we have in the college system and your universities, you know, is really world class. And it's recognized around the world about that. We need to work more closely with our academic institutions here, because that's, even on the university side, it's not the research that's the important thing, it's the people. And I think that is so important, and my experience on the manufacturing side and the tech side here is we need much more or much closer relationships, I guess, between industry on one hand and the academic community on the other. And I can tell you, and I'm looking at Tony over here and hope he nods along the way from Conestoga. Everybody today is really struggling in really trying to figure out, well, what are the skills of the next generation? And if you ask manufacturers if this is just a survey, or ask tech companies based on a survey, what skills do you need in the next 5 years? I mean, I don't know. Because technology is moving so quickly. What we do know, though, is that there are going to be some very basic skills that are going to be higher tech level skills that are required, and this ongoing relationship between industry and our college system and our university system in order to continually prepare people along the way. So it is Canada's not, we're in a pretty fortunate position in Canada because we have these tremendous assets that we can pull on. But I can tell you the skills issues are major problems around the world. And if you look at those countries that have the highest degree of automation, highest degree of adoption of robotics, they're countries that have the biggest skills problems.
Well, speaking of other countries, I am curious about your experience at the Hanover Fair. I believe you were just there. There's some context and relevancy for this discussion. What's going on overseas?
Yeah, look, the Hanover Fair, Hanover Messe, is the world's largest advanced manufacturing trade show, but it's much more than that. It's a place to do business. It's a place where political leaders meet to talk about industry and industry strategy. And Canada is going to be the host country there, or a partner country in 2025. So it's a huge opportunity for Canadian manufacturers, Canadian technology companies to really showcase their capabilities to a worldwide audience. It's not just a German audience, it's an international audience, and we took 82 companies over a couple of weeks ago. I was in the had to stay around the automation hall. We were in, there's automation, robotics, hydrogen, alternative energy, and EV value chain and digital tools, and fairly large Canadian presence. But I can tell you, talking to a lot of the exhibitors, we had one company that does automated vehicls, or is an AI system to develop an autonomous driving system for basically for industrial vehicles. And he was standing there. There was a chap walking down the aisle, and they started talking. And when this guy walked away, they had done a $5 million deal there. So it's business on the floor, Great showcase, but it's also the place you go to look at what's leading in the world. It's really difficult to come away from Hanover Fair and say that there isn't a technology there that, can do a job. It's really, it's pretty overwhelming, pretty mind-blowing. It's about 3 kilometers long with 27 halls that are basically the size of Terminal 1 in Toronto. It's a huge show. But technology is on display from around the world. It's a great learning opportunity. But the other thing is, Canada doesn't have anything to be not shameful about, but to be shy about. We have better technology solutions than some of the displays. They're the winner of the Hermes Prize, which is the prize given to the best German exhibitor. Was basically a pretty standard pick-and-place robot. It was more based on the AI capabilities of the robot. Well, in our pavilion, we had a robotic hand with fingers on a hand developed by one company, on a robotic arm developed by another company with using AI from a third company, a robotic hand that could pick peppers based on the color. It could fill test tubes, could do medical procedures. Here, the fingers are with pressure sensors, temperature sensors. There is a pretty remarkable exhibit, and when the hall organizers saw this, they said, this is much better than the Hermes Award winner. So, we've got amazing capabilities that we're all too shy to talk about, and Hanover is a great way to be able to showcase those to the world, and Bridget Bohan, I think, is back at the back there, waving in the corner. Bridget is leading our one of our delegations over to Hanover in 2025. Talk to Bridget. There's a QR code there that tells you a lot more about Hanover. But it's such a great place to do business, to see what is leading in the world of advanced manufacturing, and to talk to other people. And that's what it's not about the technology, it's about people. And the ability to get together to talk about some of these challenges around adoption of technology or looking at business opportunities here is really, really important. My experience, I've been to Hanover since 2011, and my experience is that when you begin to talk to people, you discover everybody's facing the same challenges. There's a lot of great tech out there, but what's right for my company, and everybody's struggling with that. And then from the tech provider side, it's okay, how do I make the value proposition work for the manufacturing clients that are there? It's a different trade show than any. It's not a tech show, although it is tech. I've been to other tech shows that are, sort of additive manufacturing shows, for instance, and on display will be everything you wanted to see about additive manufacturing. The only thing that would be missing are customers. This is a variety of technologies, a variety of different solutions, and the people walking the floor are investors, and they're the CEOs and the people who make the buying decisions. So it's a really, really amazing place to do business. But when we're there in 2025, we'll have basically 5 cabinet ministers, the Prime Minister, and they'll be meeting with senior business leaders from Germany as well.
That's excellent. Jason, we only have less than 2 minutes left, but I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that we're at Linamar, auto manufacturing parts. There's some real transformation in auto happening, particularly in our province. In less than 2 minutes, what's your hot take?
Well, I think they're both from the standpoint of existing parts producers, and existing manufacturers, but of course, much more as well on technologies that can be integrated into new solutions. I mean, the automotive sector is changing so rapidly here, and when it comes to EVs, for instance, nobody's got the battery technology that is going to exist and be profitable in 5 years' time. So, for example, how do we extract the resources that we have that are attracting companies to come to Canada in a way that is sustainable, that is, it's not going to be open pit mining. It's going to require some really thoughtful applications of technology, which is going to drive opportunities not only for the tech sector, but it's going to drive all sorts of opportunities for manufacturing as well. I guess what I would say for we're at a real tipping point in automotive, but I think in every other sector of manufacturing as well. If it's business as usual, it's not going to be business as usual for very long because technology is going to outpace that. So going back to what I was saying in terms of strategic leadership here, really thinking about how your companies create value for your customers and how you can contribute to that value chain is so important today. Business may be really good. The problem is sometimes when business is good, manufacturers don't have time. When business isn't so good, they don't have the money. But there has to be a better way of looking ahead, of planning, and strategically positioning your company so that you're not getting product out the door, because that's a commodity game and profits go down to zero. The only way forward is by looking at how you can create value in new ways through a smart application of technology.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate you being here with us. A round of applause for Jason.
Thanks very much.
We're going to take a short break now to provide an opportunity for you folks to connect with one another. Please check out our expo booths, and we'll resume in about 17 minutes. See you soon.
Thanks, Shakiba.
Welcome back from that brief refreshment and networking break. I am pleased to introduce our speakers for our first panel discussion centered on the competitive advantage of innovative operations. Our moderator for today's discussion, David Schnurr, is a nationally recognized technology and business lawyer who combines his qualifications as a registered patent and trademark agent and his extensive experience in business and technology law to provide a full range of pragmatic and cost-effective intellectual property, information technology, and business law advice to clients. Notably, David has prosecuted hundreds of patent and trademark applications around the world and manages significant IP portfolios for several of the firm's global clients. In addition, David is a nationally recognized leader in technology contracting, and David is consistently ranked as one of Canada's leading trademark practitioners by the prestigious World Trademark Review. David provides legal services to a broad range of clients across Ontario and Canada, including multinational corporations, universities, startups, businesses and entrepreneurs, research hospitals, small business owners, charities, and International IP Council, among others. Our first panelist is Scott McKenzie, Director of Corporate and External Affairs, and is responsible for all external affairs functions for Toyota's manufacturing and sales operations across Canada, as well as several corporate functions specific to our manufacturing operations, including strategic planning and corporate governance. He's responsible for all external affairs functions for both TMMC and TCI, including government affairs, regulatory affairs, public relations, and corporate communications. His role in government affairs has seen him in the front line of several key policy negotiations, most notably as a trusted advisor to the federal government on its successful negotiation of several international trade agreements. In his strategic planning role, Scott has helped secure several new product lines for TMMC, including the introduction of the RAV4 and the Lexus NX to TMMC's North Plant. Our second panelist is Tony Lamantia, President and CEO of Waterloo EDC. A University of Waterloo alumnus, Tony has ties to the community for decades before helping found Waterloo EDC as the organization's inaugural leader in 2016. A community builder at heart, he relishes at the opportunity to work with businesses, civic leaders, governments, and organizations to help build strong, sustainable economies for the people of Waterloo Region. Tony is the past chair of the Business and Economic Support Team for Waterloo Region, Best Waterloo Region, the partnership created to advocate on behalf of local business community, particularly during the COVID-19 crisis, and is currently a member of its leadership team. A passionate leader, his career has spanned the public, private, and nonprofit sectors with executive roles in investing, marketing, technology sales, and mining, as well as the province of Ontario as Assistant Deputy Minister of Investment and Industry. Please help me in welcoming David, Scott, and Tony.
Thank you. Thanks, Shakiba. We're very proud to sponsor today's summit. Our roots, Miller Thomson's roots in the region date back to 1858. So we're over 165 years in the region. And obviously the manufacturing sector has seen many changes since that time. Currently home to tens of thousands of manufacturing workers with significant local strengths in advanced manufacturing, agriculture, automotive, tech and digital media, food science and food processing, and aerospace. And of course, we're home to 4 leading post-secondary schools and a number of world-class business accelerators and incubators. One of the key impetuses of today's discussion is that technology is advancing at such a rapid pace, especially with the advent of mass AI adoption now. And it's driving the need, of course, for businesses to keep ahead of the technology curve out of fear that, the late adopters or the non-adopters will be left behind. And so with that said, we certainly have 2 illustrious experts on the panel today, in Tony and Scott. I'm going to be bouncing around questions back and forth here. I'm excited to get the conversation started, so we'll start, we'll dive in. The first question to Tony. So the region has been a vibrant manufacturing hub for well over 150 years now. What does the manufacturing ecosystem in the region look like to you?
All right, that's a great first question. I'm going to preface my comments by sharing what I said to Shakiba when I arrived, and that is that my Waterloo region includes Guelph, and I'm sure that her Guelph region includes Waterloo. So we are blessed with a number of large anchor multinational manufacturing companies that have basically animated manufacturing excellence, right? We're also blessed with some homegrown giants. You know, we're here at Linamar, and a number of startups and scale-ups that really kind of round out what I would characterize as a diverse, a dynamic, and a dense manufacturing ecosystem. In terms of what it means, you know, just think about Linamar and Toyota alone. 10,000 employees here, roughly 4,000 or so in Cambridge, 6,500, okay. And if I include like the lowest possible supply chain multiplier, I'm gonna add 2, all right? We're at about 50,000 jobs. Let that sink in. 50,000 families whose social and economic life depends on advanced manufacturing, right? So manufacturing excellence, the focus on getting in front of transformative new technology, innovation, and bringing that to life on the plant floor is something that we all have to work hard to maintain, and I think it's part of the magic of Waterloo Region. It's a spectacular ecosystem, and we are, you know, we're proud of the widespread reputation we have as a global center of manufacturing excellence.
That's great, thank you. And absolutely, you know, the region, we're talking about Waterloo, Wellington, and I think the 50,000 stat is just for Waterloo region, so when you include Wellington, you know, we're how much above that, which is crazy to see those sorts of numbers. Scott, as a leading local manufacturer, what do you see as some of the key competitive advantages for Toyota, you know, being located right here in the region?
Sure, thank you. It's a good question as well. There's a lot going on here. We have a pretty competitive ecosystem in the region. You know, Tony mentioned a lot of the suppliers that are nearby. You know, we've got educational institutions here. I can see Conestoga over here in front of me. We've got University of Waterloo, long-term partnerships with both of them. But the biggest thing that we have here in the region is talent. And, you know, we're a large-scale manufacturer. You know, we've got about 6,500 people in the region. We're about 8,500 people across all of our operations, including Woodstock. And, you know, all of those people that were, you know, coming out of our local hiring pools are highly educated. And when we look at our operations in, you know, the southern United States or even Mexico or elsewhere, you don't have the same standard of talent. Like, we've got fully qualified engineers, you know, in assembly. Like, the average person, you know, working in our plants has got at least some post-secondary education. A lot of them have college diplomas. A lot of them have university degrees. That's pretty uncommon, I would say, in frontline, you know, vehicle assembly. And that talent that we have here leads to a lot of innovation, a lot of what we call team member-driven innovation. It's not things that we necessarily buy, but we do that too. But, you know, developing, you know, automation and innovation on the shop floor is something that I think we do better than anyone. And, you know, within North American manufacturing, we're seen as a pretty clear leader in that space, and that's something that's a result of where we operate in this area.
That's great, thank you. And just as a follow-up, in your view, you know, what can the local community, the region do to continue to maintain this competitive advantage?
Yeah, I would say get in front of the trends. You know, we've heard a lot of discussion already today about things like artificial intelligence. That's coming. I would argue that we're really just scratching the surface on that. It's not really here yet. But even just within, you know, the context of automotive manufacturing, you know, touched on some of the investments that others have made in Ontario so far around, you know, battery electric vehicles or even battery production, battery cell production. There's skills associated with those things that we don't necessarily have in wide supply yet. And I think getting in front of those things before they happen is critically important, because someone else at, for instance, an economic development function in Illinois or Indiana or Ohio, they're already working on these things. So I think we just need to get in front of the trends before they actually materialize and become a real thing.
Yeah, no resting on our laurels or past success, certainly. For Tony now, so obviously Waterloo EDC works with a number of international companies. You're going abroad and pursuing opportunities to bring, local or international companies into the local market. Is there anything that local manufacturers can learn or glean from how international companies are pursuing innovation?
Absolutely. International companies that have facilities, specifically, we're talking manufacturing facilities in Waterloo region, have to win new mandates, new investment from headquarters. Fiercely competitive. It comes down to their ability to show, a commitment to innovation and a commitment to profitability. And if they can do that, and they hit, all the key metrics and markers, the ability to manufacture a quality product, and, to export it successfully into the United States at a competitive price, then they're in the mix. And if they're not able to demonstrate that, they're not in the mix and eliminated from, expansion plans. To me, it comes down to the ability to demonstrate a commitment to moving up the value chain. We have a lot, Waterloo region is blessed with a number of companies that have been able to do that. I could go at length talking about Toyota's move from the Corolla to the RAV4 to the Lexus models, the NX Hybrid, but, Scott can do that more effectively than I can. But I'm going to talk about a couple of companies. One in particular is PWO in Kitchener, a subsidiary of a German auto parts / clean tech company that started off as an acquisition of essentially of a stamping operation, so metal fabrication stamping, and with investments in plant equipment, digitization, investments in training over the years, we're partnering with institutions like Conestoga College. They moved up the value chain to go from essentially stamping to design engineering, for Ford and other companies. They make the crossbeam for the Ford Edge and the Bronco. And they've had a couple of CEOs over the last 20 years. The last guy was like a mad scientist, and he, in a very German manner, he wanted everyone who joined the company, joined the plant floor, to see their own progression. And he basically laid out, okay, if you have this designation, this is the job you can qualify for in our plant, and you can go to QA manager, and this is how your salary progresses. So you're going from, $15 or $20 an hour to $60,000, $70,000 a year to, six figures as a plant manager, et cetera, et cetera. So that commitment to, laying out in a methodical way what it takes to be successful globally, to be profitable. Profitability matters. We can't take it for granted. And, we have, lots of examples of those kinds of companies in aerospace and automotive manufacturing and process automation. And so we're really blessed to have that. But there are plenty of examples of successful companies who've won mandates from headquarters.
That's excellent. And Scott, in terms of the Toyota experience, I'm assuming, when you look at where Toyota chooses to invest around the globe, and you look at all of the assets that Waterloo Region and Wellington provide, you get a sense of why Toyota has, selected this area to invest in and continue to grow in.
Yeah, we've got a lot of ingredients here. There's a lot of, companies here that we can partner with. I mentioned the talent already. It's a reasonably competitive place to manufacture, although, we're also a high-cost jurisdiction. But we've got all the ingredients, but we still have to put it together. And, for us, we compete for production mandates with other Toyota plants across North America. And they're equally as competitive. They're trying to win production mandates. Everybody wants the next and greatest thing. And, we have to stand on our own 2 feet and, put a competitive proposal together. And, we need to take advantage of those things that are available to us and harness them and, make sure they're an actual benefit and, not just something that's around us that, we're not necessarily using.
That's great insight, and I'm assuming, you're looking at, within the ecosystem, the supports that different levels of government can provide and should be providing, the local, certainly the skilled labor market, the educational institutions that might be able to provide some R&D sort of offshoots, but it takes sort of a village approach, right, to make it all happen.
Yeah, we've had a very long and honestly successful partnership with all levels of government, whether it's federal, provincial, municipal. We've been pretty blessed to have good relationships with all three of them. Governments change. The one benefit in Canada, especially at the federal level, but I would say provincially as well, in the grand scheme of things don't change that much. Maybe the political rhetoric is different, but, programs, the way things are done, they're not radically different. So that's a good thing for us because we have relative stability. If you spend a lot of time looking at the situation in the U.S., we've got an election coming up in, early November, and who knows what's going to come out of that. I certainly don't, but we do have long-term stability, partnerships. It's a great place to be, and, we've never felt that, we weren't served by our partners.
Yeah, boring is awesome when it comes to that stuff. But boring is the way to be.
For sure, yeah, and I think we're all waiting with bated breath, wondering, what the outcome of the November election will be in the U.S. So back to Scott, this is on the EV front in particular. So, of course, many of you are aware there was a big announcement from Honda about a couple weeks back, investing, I think, $11 billion plus into an EV battery facility in Alliston.
$15 billion.
$15 billion, okay. Maybe I saw the US dollar amount.
US, 15 Canadian.
Which is a big difference. Volkswagen, I think they're looking at a vision for potentially a solid state battery manufacturing facility in their St. Thomas Gigafactory, the upcoming factory. I don't want to put you on the spot, certainly, but any expectations about a similar type of investment from Toyota in Ontario in the future?
Yeah, I've had that question a few times in the last few weeks, if you can believe it. Starting with, I think, actually during the press conference, my phone started ringing. I was in an airport lounge in Edmonton, actually, and a lot of questions, but no problem. First of all, congratulations to Honda. I think that's fantastic. Good for them. If I could have been part of an announcement like that for Toyota, I would have been, pretty proud, and it would have been the highlight of my career. Probably the highlight of Tony's career, too. But, first of all, over the last 2 years, we've invested more than $1 billion in our plant and not told anybody about it. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Our production mandates, and I'm not trying to criticize others, but our production mandates aren't tied to labor negotiations. We just invest as we see fit, and we've continued to invest, and that's a good thing. There was no government incentives attached to those. We just thought it was a good thing to do, and we invested. We'll continue to invest. Looking at what Honda did, battery electric vehicle production, battery cell production, and then 2 component suppliers that go into batteries as well. They're doing cathode active material and also separators somewhere in Ontario at a location, TBD. Would love to do something like that at some point. I'll say this clearly, we'll make battery electric vehicles in Canada at some point. It's going to happen. The other thing to say is, even if we were to make an investment like that in battery electric vehicles, we're still going to be making hybrids, potentially plug-in hybrids, and we're going to blend those things over, could be 10 years. So could we do something like that in the future? I don't know if we're, I don't want to let anyone down. I don't know if we're going to have a huge number attached like that to, a project at that scope and size, but, could we do a bunch of those things individually? Over time, yeah, we could. But the key takeaway is, don't worry about us, we'll be fine.
Very good. And then just as a follow-up, and we've sort of danced around this question, at least in a general sense, Scott, your sense of what makes Ontario and potentially, this Waterloo-Wellington region such a popular destination for global brands looking to expand their capabilities in the EV production space?
Obviously, I wasn't involved in Volkswagen's decision to locate a battery plant here. That's nothing to do with me. But I also know, based on my role, what companies like Toyota look at in terms of necessary ingredients. And one of the things that I know had an outsized impact on their decision was the access to clean energy. So if you look at Ontario, I don't know where it's at today, but it's basically floats between 90 and 94% non-emitting electricity sources. And if you're trying to invest in, battery cell production, that's a good thing to have. If you're investing in some states in the U.S., you could have that inverted, meaning you could have like a 6% electricity from non-emitting sources, and then you've got a challenge on your hands, because at some point in time, people are going to expect you to be carbon neutral, and that's a pretty uphill battle. So we have that going for us. Like I said, we've got strong government partnerships as well. I think the federal government tried to dip their toes into competing with the U.S. On, industrial subsidies, and anyway, that's gone its course at this point. I don't think they can do too much more of that, but, have they signaled to companies like Toyota and others that, they'll be partners? Of course they will. Maybe not to that scale, but, that's fine. We've always had competitive relationships, with all levels of government. We've got a great space to operate in here. We've got long embedded suppliers, both Japanese transplants and even North American suppliers that have become long-term strategic partners. They'll continue to be our strategic partners. And like I said, we'll continue to invest, and you don't have to worry about us.
Right. And then back to Tony.
I worry all the time.
You do?
Yeah, I spend all hours of the day and early morning worrying about our anchor companies, and Toyota is, I think, is our crown jewel. So yeah, we got to we have to keep them here, keep them in a great place. I drive a 2023 Lexus RX 350 hybrid. It's my first hybrid vehicle. I've had it for 9 months. Who knew they were such awesome vehicles, right? And they actually change driving behavior fundamentally. The dashboard, I'm going to do a pitch for your hybrids, but they...
I've got one too.
Yeah, and I started off at like 6.2 liters per 100 kilometers. I do a lot of highway driving. I'm at like 6.6 now. I'm trying to get it back down. But in terms of changing behavior, my wife said to me a couple of months ago, Anthony, you're only 60. Why are you driving like my 91-year-old father? And I'm like, oh, I'm just trying to get back down to 6.5. But anyway, I'm going to zip it. There's a question coming, I'm sure.
Question coming. I would say, kudos to Toyota, frankly, for being ahead of the curve on hybrid adoption, right? And the notion that at this stage, we're probably maybe a little too early. We don't have the EV infrastructure in place, so we need...
Outselling battery electric vehicles in the U.S. by a factor of 5 to 1. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so yes, Tony, insight on how innovation has been the centerpiece of business investment in the local area, and in particular the manufacturing sector. Like, what insights can you provide about, how innovation has sort of been at the core of business investment?
Yeah, so increasingly, the things that matter for companies trying to make an investment decision have moved away from, if you think about market opportunity, cost structure, talent, given what's happening with knowledge-based industries, Industry 4.0, the talent piece becomes almost more important than, the cost structure. We are a high-cost jurisdiction, but you kind of get what you pay for. And if you can demonstrate that the quality of the talent and the ability to drive innovation because you're in a region which has a globally significant ecosystem, brain belt, call it whatever you want, a combination of, research partnerships with, the college, the universities, critically important. So a differentiator has been the ability for companies to have peace of mind when they land here, right? Because for some, if they don't have a presence in North America and, Kitchener or Cambridge or the city of Waterloo become their new hub, let's say their new North American headquarters, it's more often than not about the talent, and it is about the ability to, produce outstanding products and be able to continue to move up the value chain. I talked about, investing in innovation, investing in digitization, quality improvements, and we're blessed by being in this golden horseshoe, so access to a huge market to the south, and I think that's the centerpiece of it.
Yeah, that's great. In terms of the talent pool, a region of our size to have 4, world-leading or country-leading educational institutions, post-secondary schools with Guelph, Laurier, Waterloo, and Conestoga College, it's almost an embarrassment of riches, right? That we, have so much concentration of education and R&D and the talent pool that flows from that right here in our backyard. Scott, I'm going to stick to the script and keep on the EV chain here. The automotive industry is going through an obvious transition to EVs. We're all well aware of that. Specifically, what opportunities does Toyota see within the supply chain?
Yeah, as we transition to, battery electric vehicles specifically, many studies out there speculating on, changes and reduction of parts, some parts going away. Fuel systems, as an example, in a battery electric vehicle, they don't exist. Exhaust systems, there's going to be some changes. You don't need a fuel tank, as an example. That being said, there's going to be new commodities introduced into that, and there's going to be a general focus on cost reduction and lightweighting. Battery electric vehicles are expensive and they're heavy. And I think both of those will be target areas. I think you're going to see, like from a materials science point of view, a lot of focus on new materials that we don't use today that have the structural properties of, for instance, like steel or aluminum, but, might be like a glass-filled resin or something like that that's lighter. Just because we're going to have to reduce a lot of weight out of the vehicle and also find ways to reduce costs. So if you're on the leading edge of those things, I think it's a really good opportunity. I don't want to overstate the change in the car though. Like from a platform point of view, you might go, from 300 parts to a handful, like Tesla has done. But, the upper body of the car, you still need seats. You're still going to have an instrument panel. Like there's still a lot of components in the supply chain that really aren't going to change. People tend to focus on the ones that are, but there's, suppliers embedded in this region that do, stamping. They do, plastic injection molding. They do blow molding. Those things are still going to be around. So I think there's still opportunities for everybody, but the focus has got to be on taking weight and cost out of the vehicle if they're going to be successful.
And in your view, does the region have any specific competitive advantages when it comes to supply chain logistics and fulfillment? Either of you can answer this to a degree.
Absolutely. it built on the network of logistics going in and out of the plants, and just so across the board, you can look at some of the logistics centers of excellence that we have in the region, Cambridge, even like in some of the townships, North Dumfries, and built around not just Toyotas, but other manufacturers' just-in-time production requirements. And so there's a sophisticated logistics hub here, and given where we're located in the Golden Horseshoe, it's been built through good business practices, but also operating efficiencies. So, the short answer is absolutely. Yep.
I'll add to that a little bit. I talked about, parts supply, but we also have a lot of vendors in the region, equipment vendors, automation vendors, and, in order to be competitive, I mentioned earlier that we're in a relatively high-cost environment compared to other jurisdictions where cars are made in North America, but, we run a highly efficient process. So we take our fixed costs and spread them across as many vehicles as we can by maintaining a high production uptime, and then we're competitive that way. But a lot of our focus is on reducing non-value-added work. So we've got, as I mentioned, highly skilled team members. They should be focusing on adding value to the car, and we should be using automation to eliminate non-value-added work. We're blessed with companies in the region that specialize in that, whether it be, vision systems to, help with quality control, or even, highly advanced, completely autonomous parts delivery. So if you came to our plants in Cambridge or Woodstock, you would see completely autonomous, completely autonomous, small electric vehicles driving parts around, so that we don't, tie up our human capital on doing something that doesn't actually help the end product. They're just, we call it MUDA, or waste in our Toyota speak, but we focus on, eliminating that waste, and, automation is the way that we do that. And like I said, we got a lot of great companies in the area that we work with today, and I'm sure we'll continue working with them, tomorrow.
Fewer workers' comp claims with, bad backs as well. That's part of this, kind of what's behind some of this great automation.
And even if I can just jump on that one last time, because I get asked this question. I was not asked this question, I'm going to answer it anyway. Automation for us doesn't result in less people. Melissa, who's over here and works for me, and Lynn, who also work for me, they frequently put material together that we present to visitors, and I always remember we have a graph in there that shows our employment over time. Our automation ratio has increased, and so has our headcount. And the more efficient you are at doing something, the more work they give you. And that's been true in our case, and I think that would be true in everyone's case. The more efficient you are, the more business you'll win, and it's an upward trajectory for both.
Very good. To Tony now. Waterloo Region's population growth is quite remarkable. We are consistently ranked among the highest growth regions, Guelph as well, in Canada. There's a projection that the population of the region will grow past 1 million people in the next 20 plus years. Maybe sooner. Sooner. Yeah. That will mean, of course, a significantly larger workforce, the need as well for significantly more jobs. What role in particular does innovation play in terms of helping the community grow, to help job growth, to help, sustain this fast-growing population?
I think the innovation piece is going to be critically important. Innovative ways to deal with the housing shortage, innovative ways to deal with the industrial land shortage. In addition to being one of the fastest growing census metropolitan areas pretty much every year over the last 10 years, with both net migration coming into Waterloo region, but also immigration that leads to individuals and families. And by the way, the demographics, the biggest demographics of individuals coming into our region are men and women in their 30s and kids under 5, so young families coming in. Our ability to, and we have the lowest industrial vacancy rate in the country, right? So when you think about when we get to 1 million people, schools, daycare centers, homes, infrastructure required, industrial land of all sizes, a mega site. As an organization, we've been talking about that for a while. We need to be ready, and it means that, innovation will drive not only growth in employment, but it will also come with challenges as we try to ride the tiger, right? And that means, more jobs, hopefully better jobs. And I think that we have a role from a social equity, social justice point of view that this prosperity can't be taken for granted, right? And so, being successful means we help improve the median incomes of individuals. We're not all going to be data scientists, software engineers, and so innovation in manufacturing is going to be very important for our ability to grow to 1 million people.
I think, you made the point, we have to plant the seeds and plan ahead. And, if we're looking at ensuring that we have, large-scale plots of land to support, future industrial, growth, we need to take steps now to ensure that we're well-positioned in the future. So for Scott, how does innovation and perhaps automation in particular, but innovation fit into the planning at Toyota? How do you cultivate a culture of innovation? What are you thinking? What is the company thinking about sort of day to day in terms of innovation pursuits and execution?
Have you got another hour?
Yeah, I kind of covered this a little bit already, but like we compete for production mandates with other Toyota plants in the U.S. and even in Japan, and we have to stand on our own 2 feet and basically put a compelling case forward, and someone needs to say that's a good idea. And a lot of that is based on not innovation, but how we apply it. And I talked about production uptime. When you're competing against a jurisdiction that pays their people $5 a day, you need to have something else that you can bring to the table, because we've got a few of our people from manufacturing sitting at a table here, and they're not cheap, and they know their worth. So they're we're happy to have them, but we're competing against, again, jurisdictions that are not paying that. So, we need to invest in automation and, as I said, running a high uptime. Like when I say that, like when our line is available 95, 96, 97% of our plan, we're successful. And if we're running 92, 91% of the time, we're not. And, there's not a lot of margins in a vehicle. And, manufacturing is only one contributor to the overall, enterprise cost of making a car. Or selling a car, pardon me. We need to be extremely efficient with resources, and all of our energy is focused on, quality and safety, obviously, but quality and also, being efficient with our resources. And automation and innovation, that's where that plays. And honestly, that's where artificial intelligence for us, that's where that's going to play. Of
course, we could spend hours, separate session talking about AI and its impact.
I'd rather not.
Yeah, fair enough. So we are actually getting close to time. I'm going to ask you for your final thoughts or takeaways. Great discussion, by the way. Thank you both. Personally, I think, in general terms, businesses located in this region are very well positioned, right, to take advantage of all the resources that the local market offers to stay ahead of the innovation curve. Strong R&D, the educational institutions, the program supports, local government and provincial and federal government supports, the skilled labor market. The culture, I think, is a big thing. Like, we're a culture of doers, I think, more than some other communities. But I'll leave it to both of you, to Tony first and then to Scott. What are your final takeaways?
I think it comes down to being a welcoming and progressive host community for our own companies and for international companies. That's always been the case. And I like to talk about, you know, in Waterloo Region and in Wellington, here we are in obviously at the center of the largest manufacturing employer in Guelph. We learn by doing, right? And that's certainly been the legacy of Frank Hassenfratz. I like to call myself a 60-year-old University of Waterloo co-op student at heart. You know, graduated in 1987, and one of my first gigs was working in 1985 at IBM at Don Mills in Eglinton when we used to manufacture computers. IBM actually used to manufacture computers in the 80s in Toronto. But we learn by doing here, and we have a kind of, I don't know, it's a confidence, and it's a little bit of a smugness, but, you know, it comes from this confidence that we can overcome any problem. But I guess I'll reinforce that it's paid great dividends. We have to keep that saw sharp. We have to keep investing. We have to keep challenging ourselves, stay curious, stay hungry, and focus on the future.
I have two things, so I'm going to borrow an extra one. We're here for the long haul. And when I say that, we're actually celebrating our 60th year of operations in Canada this year. That's from a sales point of view, so it's a big milestone for us. And we've been manufacturing here for 36 years. And again, we're not going anywhere. You know, we believe as a company in long-term relationships. We believe in being embedded in our communities, and you know that's how we plan to operate going forward. So that's a good thing. The other thing I'll just mention is, you know, this transition to electrification, you know, you'll have noticed various stops and starts, you know, big investments that sometimes are a little bit slower getting off the ground than, you know, people maybe expected. It's going to be a challenging time, but I can assure you that, you know, some companies have had, I'll just say, an unstable you know, launch of these new models, whether they're shutting down production lines, disrupting. That won't be us. So when we get to that point, we start transition to, you know, battery electric vehicles, whatever it happens to be, we'll find a way to be stable and, you know, not be disruptive in terms of the communities that we serve.
Very good. Okay, thanks to you both. I think Ian is coming back now, yeah.
Well, thank you, David and Tony and Scott, for a very thoughtful and thought-provoking discussion. We really appreciate being with us today. We'll let you exit the stage as we get the next crew up. But a couple of takeaways as they're leaving the stage here. You know, starting with our discussion of Next Gen and the importance of partnerships and collaborations, the talk that everyone's had today about skills and innovation, which is essential for competitiveness and productivity, which we need to compete, and anchor employers like Toyota and Linamar that sustain the supply chains that fuel our local economy is really, really important for us to hear that. So thank you to the panel and for their thoughts. We're going to move now straight into the final panel discussion of the day with a focus on innovation fueling industry growth. I have the honor of introducing our speakers for our discussion centered on innovation fueling industry growth. Our moderator for today's discussion, Dr. Chrétien, received her BSc in chemistry from Dalhousie University. I'm a big Dalhousie fan. I have a daughter there, so that's wonderful. And she has a PhD in physical chemistry from the University of Ottawa. Currently the Vice President, Research and Innovation at Conestoga College. She has extensive experience leading applied research in 3D printing, automation, robotics, design, simulation, and printed electronics, has resulted in new capabilities and infrastructure to support innovations in advanced manufacturing and beyond. Prior to joining the public sector in 2018, Michelle spent 12 years at the Xerox Research Centre of Canada in various roles, including Global Program Manager in Electronic Materials, Senior R&D Manager, Materials Science, and Program Manager in Strategic Partnerships. Michelle has published 22 scientific papers in peer-reviewed journals and has been granted 92 U.S. patents on novel materials and manufacturing technologies. Among her awards are the IUFAC Prize for Young Chemists, the Xerox Certificate of Excellence. Dr. Chrétien is a member of the MyTax Research Council and activity mentors various incubators and entrepreneurship hubs. So welcome, Michelle. Our first panel, come on up as I'm reading this. The first panelist is Glenn Millard. Glenn is appointed Vice President of the Ontario Region of EDC in October of 2019. In this role, he is responsible for sales distribution and in-market representation for EDC in the province of Ontario. The team in Ontario includes diversified sales as well as dedicated technology team to specifically support our growing technology sector. Glenn's team works with all size of exporters and covers all sectors. Glenn has over 20 years of trade and export finance experience, working in both Crown Corporation and private companies. Before his current role and position, Glenn was involved in creating and building EDC's first sales enablement team to support sales efforts at EDC. He's also been a global account director serving some of Canada's largest exporters, a regional manager in the GTA, and he opened EDC's first in-market representation in the province of Saskatchewan. Our second panelist is Natalie Axie, Vice President of Partnerships at GMDH Streamline. Natalie is a certified supply chain expert, a knowledgeable influencer, and Streamline partnerships leader who works with supply chain and S&OP consultants and organizations globally. And our final panelist is Luis Romero. Luis is a senior partner with BDC's advisory services team in Ontario with over 15 years of experience in strategy, operational efficiency, digital transformation, and general management. He is passionate about the power of data and its leverage on business performance, having led several operational excellence and process transformations across a wide variety of businesses. Luis's customer-minded approach helps BDC clients across all industries optimize their processes and technologies for optimum results. Prior to consulting, Luis ran business divisions for a multinational company across 3 continents and is trained in Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, PMI methodologies. He holds a BA in economics from the University of San Francisco and an MBA from the Golden Gate University. Please join me in welcoming Michelle, Natalie, Glenn, and Luis. Thank you.
Hey, I don't have any hands, sorry. Feel short ever until I do it again. All right. Well, people, we have a tough act to follow here, so.
Indeed we do.
But I have confidence in us. So thank you, Ian, for the kind introduction. Let that be a lesson to me to read and review my own bio before it gets sent in. I'm delighted to be here today. Conestoga is very proud to be a gold sponsor of this event. And of course, manufacturing is near and dear to my heart. So I'm pleased to be joined on stage with our illustrious panelists. I'm also really proud to hear Conestoga mentioned so many times alongside our post-secondary partners as core components of this vibrant ecosystem that we're all a part of. So I'm guessing at this point everybody knows who Conestoga is. 270 programs, 20 degrees, and yes, fully accredited engineering degrees. Also home to the Smart Center, which is an applied research and innovation center delivering innovative solutions and custom training, located in Cambridge. There's a table. If you haven't spoken with my colleagues yet, please do so. Jeff's waving madly in the corner. But with all that said, I don't want to take too much time. I want to hop right into what I think is going to be a really awesome conversation. So we've had the table set nicely in the context of innovation and thinking about operations. And so there's going to be some good jumping off points, I think, for our conversation. So I'd like to kick it off with Mark. Can I call you Glenn? No.
I'd strongly prefer Mark.
I'm sorry. Just a joke.
We had an illness here at EDC, so I'm a Phil, and I apologize in advance for letting anybody down, but please, by all means, Mark is preferable. Yeah.
Okay, sorry, Mark, right, okay, good. For a second there, I thought you said your name was Phil. I was like, wow, we've really screwed this up. Okay. Okay, so let's start. And maybe you could start by just talking to us a little bit about how you would define innovation in the context of manufacturing and supply chain, and why it is so crucial for our sector's growth and competitiveness.
Yeah, certainly. I think that's a good place to start. I'll start by saying that innovation can take a multitude of different forms in the context of manufacturing, as I'm sure we're all aware. More broadly, though, innovation means to be on the lookout for something better, to see flaws, to find solutions, to take an existing method and really streamline it. But also, innovation doesn't always involve developing new products or services, and often focuses on improving what already exists, right? And in order to have a lasting impact, innovation is something that needs to really be ingrained in the corporate culture of an organization. So that's how I define innovation. As far as why it matters, well, simply put, businesses that invest in research and development and in advanced technologies have a better growth outlook than those that don't. Such investments can dramatically increase operational efficiency and flexibility, reduce production costs, improve environmental performance, and these firm-level investments, if undertaken, improve overall competitiveness of Canadian manufacturing sector and lift the economic growth and prosperity of the sector. So, in short, by innovating, there's an ability to create value for you, for your customer, and ensure that you remain relevant and command a price premium for the goods and services that you offer.
That's great, thank you, Mark. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and I think you did a really nice job of, again, kind of like setting the table for the conversation we're going to have. Natalie, thinking about traditional manufacturing companies, some of whom have been around for a long time, I thought we just had some great examples from Toyota, who is a company who has been here, manufacturing here for 36 years, and how they are continuing to embrace innovation to drive their competitiveness. How do traditional manufacturing companies foster a culture of innovation?
Thank you for a wonderful question, actually. If you're talking about innovation, and your answer is already in your question, so you're asking about culture, right? Corporate culture. So innovation is really part of corporate culture, and it doesn't happen just overnight. It is part of management decision to be innovative. And it's absolutely impossible to get innovation without preparation. And if you're talking about preparation, it's about investing in team, training, education, of course. And today we were talking a lot about AI in supply chain. And actually, I'm happy to say that I am very proud to be part of a company which is producing supply chain innovation for manufacturers. And again, it's impossible to have successful implementation. Doesn't matter if you're talking about Canada. Again, we discussed a lot about businesses globally, right? And I'm happy to say that we are operating globally. We have representation in China, in US, in Europe, Middle East, just pretty much everywhere. And situation is same. In order for company to be innovative, it has to be vision and strategy led by management. So this is the only way to do it. So education, and after that you will have innovation. Does it make sense?
Yeah, it does. I think it makes a lot of sense. And I just want to pick up on one of the words that you used, which was invest. And I think we heard also in the last panel a lot about automation as a tool, for innovation. And tying that back to the idea of investment, I'll move to you, Luis. Why is it important for companies in the manufacturing sector to think about that investment in automation?
All right, good question. At BDC, we only deal with SMEs, small, mid-sized businesses, and in our discussions with business owners and companies, there are two common trends that resonate with them when you ask them about their current challenges. It's lack of labor or lack of space to grow. And automation is always a viable and good alternative to addressing those issues. The other one being acquisition, but automation, we've always recommended that. I mean, investing in productivity has always proven to be a good way to increase productivity, as everybody has mentioned here, and competitiveness in their industry and their business. In fact, at the BDC, our research shows that in an industry with similar number of employees, the top 10% of businesses have generated 6 times more sales and 4 times more profitability. In addition, they've been investing 1.5 times more in information, digitization, machinery and equipment per employee more than their counterparts. So, in short, if you're not investing in automation or robotics, for example, then you risk lagging behind your competition, or even worse, becoming irrelevant.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point, and the data's there to support it as you've shared. So you mentioned BDC is supporting mostly small and medium-sized enterprises, which I think includes entrepreneurs. So, and you're so right. The question we hear most often is a barrier to growth is, one of the answers to that is really labor, and one of the answers is definitely automation. And so how do entrepreneurs, for example, kind of move away from traditional manufacturing companies down the food chain to entrepreneurs? What's some advice for them when they start to think about how they might embrace and leverage robotics or automation in their companies?
You know what projects?
Sure, yeah.
They can start with?
Yeah.
One good way would be to identify repetitive tasks, and we always say start with the 4 Ds, whether it's dull tasks, that means, the Amazon is an example, picking and sorting at your warehouse. Detailed tasks could be inspection, and there are visual inspection. Identify repetitive, detailed, dull tasks. Dirty tasks is another one, like mining. They're using, Rio Tinto is using a lot of robot for exploring mines. Dangerous tasks as well, or even physically tiring tasks for material handling. So any business can leverage automation or robotics. And I would also like to highlight that there are 2 types of automation. One is process automation, and I see that there are a lot of service providers here. You can apply automation for CRM, for customer management, for sales, for invoicing. And then the other type is industrial automation. So just identify with your team what are repetitive, what's redundant, what's detailed, and what's dirty, and go from there.
I like that, the 3 Ds, I will remember that. And surely the 4 Ds, I wrote 4, I don't know. Some of the most interesting kind of entrepreneurial ventures I've seen have been embracing exactly that approach. How do I take those tasks and apply automation and robotics to solving those problems? So we're supposed to be talking about innovation, how innovation fuels growth, and part of growth is certainly helping companies grow the export side of their business. So to you, Mark, does this investment work? Are companies who invest in innovation more attractive for export?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you've heard some prior panelists talk about how competitive the global landscape is and how, despite having a wealth of great talent here, we are an expensive area of the world to produce things, right? And I think when you factor in innovation as far as increasing your competitive nature internationally, undoubtedly, it's hugely advantageous. I would say the ability to present a product or an offering that's manufactured in a new way, in an innovative way, at a lower cost production, lower environmental impact, lower emissions impact, greater level of responsiveness. These are all unique value propositions, and when you're dealing with buyers internationally, that's what they're seeking, right? That's what they're seeking from an advanced nation state like Canada. So when you're able to identify the strategic priorities of your potential customer base and really tie those in with the advantages that you've obtained through innovation, the payoff can be enormous. And we see that all the time with the clients that we support as they embark into new markets. For example, Europe's implementing mandatory Scope 3 emissions reporting, right? So specific to the emissions in the supply chain, and companies who we work with who who are innovating and who have been ahead of the curve have been able to really seize these opportunities because they focused on innovation as it pertained to decreasing emissions. So, and I would say, in addition to that, innovation is also more likely to capture the attention of foreign customers with set supply chains. So foreign buyers are not looking for alternative supply sources for existing components that they have. They're looking for new and innovative solutions that can help improve their products and help improve the end customer experience. So, in short, absolutely.
Awesome. And so how do we support them to do that? And how does EDC work with these companies to support that journey?
Yeah, sure. So through a number of different mechanisms, I don't know the degree to which those in attendance have familiarity with EDC, but I'll say first, innovation doesn't come cheap. We've talked about the fact that there are risks involved. We heard from Jason earlier around the success to which a lot of these innovative undertakings have had, and I think it was surprising to hear the degree with which there was a failure rate associated with those, right? And I think the way that EDC supports is we're really well positioned to help companies fund their business, EDC and BDC alike. There's an important point to make, I would say, though, a distinction when you're considering funding innovative efforts, and that's the difference between a startup company or an established business. When you're talking about a startup company, I would say that's generally considered to be what we call equity risk. You're funding the innovation out of your own equity, either a raise or ownership funds. However, EDC can support there too. We do have an equity matching program, and we do take minority equity positions in businesses that have a potential global impact, right? And that really shine a positive light on what we're doing here in Canada and here in Ontario. And the other side of the coin would really be established companies with traditional banking relationships, well entrenched in their communities. EDC is able to work with the exporter, their financial institution, to access working capital, to finance their innovation efforts. We can kind of start off from concept through to the equipment and the capital expenditures required. Those are some of the ways that we're doing it from the financing side of things to support the balance sheet. We're really stepping in where the bank appetite maybe has weaned, or it's something that's kind of outside of the traditional credit parameters of a financial institution. But I would say furthermore, we also have a robust network overseas. So we can do this by leveraging our international expertise, our international representatives to help Canadian companies in identifying the best local financial partners for their needs. I'll give you a quick example. In Germany, EDC's representative is a lifelong financial professional there in that market, understands where the bank appetites are, understands who the best fit would be strategically for a company depending on the sector with which you operate. So it's really the whole ecosystem that a company needs to be competitive in that front. Obviously having the financial support of a strategic long-term partner, but furthermore having the expertise and knowledge to be able to provide guidance where something's new to a business, right?
Yeah, thanks for that. I think that's really important. If we're thinking about growth, some of those foundational supports are really important for companies to understand that they can access, because innovation can be a scary thing. We say it all the time in research and development, if you're not failing, you're not trying hard enough. So we do have to expect failure, and we all, I think, as businesses want partners who understand that that's a part of this process. So thanks for sharing that. Recognizing that we talked a little bit about automation, or maybe a lot about automation and robotics, I want to move and talk a little bit more about innovation and supply chain. And so Natalie, if a company is looking to invest in a supply chain solution, what are the things they should be looking for to make sure it's a good fit for them and it's suitable for them? Like, are there some best practices, or what should they be looking for?
Thank you for a wonderful question. Really wonderful. First of all, if you're talking about innovation technology, it should be next step after vision, right? So we don't deploy technology just because it's fashion, because it's trend in the market. We deploy it only because company really needs, management really understand what kind of technology is needed. So first of all is strategy and vision. Now, definitely we have to discuss about requirements, right? So yes, we have strategy, we have vision, but we also have very detailed requirements, what exactly company needs. Are we talking about too much of frozen capital? And Overstocks, are we talking about low sales and stock outs, right? So we have to understand what are our requirements. And of course, technology, we have to pay attention to technologies. Again, implementation, how it's going to be done, deployment, training, all of that. Usability, technology has to be user-friendly. And again, if we're talking about AI, it doesn't matter how sophisticated technology is, it has to be user-friendly because even the best technology is used by people, right? And if it's too complicated to use it, again, doesn't matter how much company invest, if it doesn't matter how much time we invest, people will not use until it's user-friendly. So it has to be very user-friendly. It has to be simple to use. It has to be very intuitive. And of course, cost. And if I'm talking about cost, I'm not talking only about money. It's also about time. It's also about efforts, right? And again, we're talking about people. So all of these factors, I can speak about it like hours, right? But those are the main important, and actually this is what we have to keep in mind. And there is also one more thing to remember, that if you want to stay competitive tomorrow, and many speakers were speaking about it today, if you have to stay competitive tomorrow, we cannot rely on tools which we used to use yesterday. Same as S&OP, sales and operation planning, right? Just let's say like 1890s, companies were just using pen and paper, and it was perfect. If we're talking about 90s, 2000, it was Excel, but right now, in order to stay competitive, and again, globally, we have to use solutions which are a little bit or much more advanced. Actually, I'm talking about AI solution. So supply chain planning right now without AI solution is not quick enough to stay competitive. So again, to compete tomorrow, we have to rely on different tools than we used to use yesterday.
I think that makes a lot of sense. There's some solid advice there. But you did mention people a couple of times, and Luis, you mentioned this also, that the access to talent is certainly continues to be a major concern for a lot of companies. So what are your thoughts on how investing in innovation and the digital transformation can help companies address a labor or talent shortage?
Thank you for this question. Again, wonderful. And people, more advanced technology is more talented people we need. This is first thing to remember. Second, it is true that we have shortage of talents. We have shortage of skilled workers, skilled team members, but if you're talking about technology, there is one nice thing. So we have to use technology to make our teams more efficient. And again, it is not something new. Speakers before from Toyota, gentlemen, were speaking about it. So technology are supposed to make our teams more efficient. So where there is a shortage of talents, we can use technology. This is first thing. And second, we just have to use technology to turn our team members into champion. And here actually where we have this formula of success. And again, doesn't matter if we're talking about improving everything locally or globally. This is how it works.
Yeah, I think that's a thread, you're right, that we heard on the previous panel as well, right? So it is often part of the conversation when we talk about adopting technology, specifically automation comes up a lot as a tool to address a labor and talent shortage, but it doesn't reduce the need for talented or skilled labor.
Absolutely, no, I would say it's an increase. So more advanced technology is more talented people we need just to move on. It's not about shortage.
Yeah, and I think Scott from Toyota was mentioning that graph over time, which I think was a really nice visual of, yes, we are adopting more automation, and yes, we're embracing technology more, but that just means we are hiring more people and growing our workforce. So
technology is a tool, that's it, right?
Absolutely. And Luis, I will turn over to you as we talk about automation as one of those tools. What should a business do before they invest in a tool like automation?
Well, they can apply methodologies in continuous improvement, and there are several approaches, but we would say, first of all, is assess your business process, whether it's a service industry or business or a industrial manufacturing industry, assess your business process, and you can do that through several ways. You can do process flow mapping, value stream mapping is pretty useful because you identify how long it would take from the time they get an order or a PO all the way to shipping, so identify the gaps, how long it would take, where are the waiting points, and then during that process, you get buy-in with your team, and you do a workshop on, hey, which are the repetitive tasks here, or which are the detailed tasks, and start identifying that for automation. Once you've done the assessment, then you can go into standardizing your process. By that, you mean, hey, we've identified there's a lot of inconsistencies, some gaps, so one way to standardize is put some procedures in place. I know it's very basic, but a lot of companies don't have some in place, or it's very old, so they need to have updated procedures. It could be visual procedures like they do at Toyota and all these automotive manufacturers. It's more effective. Put some work instructions and then leverage technology. So once you assess, you standardize, and then you optimize. And how do you optimize? And start leveraging technology through automation to make the process more efficient. And one thing to highlight though is you'll have to address with people, why are you automating, why are you putting robots in place? It's all about helping them work smarter, not harder. So it's one way to get their buy-in, because it's very important when replacing a process or introducing new technologies.
Yeah, I like that. Assess, standardize, optimize. And are there things that people should keep in mind, like common mistakes that you see people making that they should avoid?
You mean companies?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, what we have seen with companies implementing new technologies or automation is under planning. For example, that's one common mistake. Not planning enough. They think that it's just purchasing the robotic equipment or automation and just running with it. They need to spend time on training, for example. And likewise, it's under budgeting, not budgeting enough for fully implementing. They probably budget for the equipment, a little bit on training, and we always say focus a lot on training, because change management is a critical issue. It's always about people and them adopting to this new technology or to the new process. Implement those. Of course, one common mistake as well is underestimating the impact of change management, right? It's about addressing the what's in it for me with all of your employees. Why are you implementing this? So spend some time with change management. In simple terms, it's really about communicating a lot, the importance of this project, this new equipment, and training until they're comfortable with it.
That's some really, really great advice. I think in working with small manufacturers, especially through kind of the rise of Industry 4.0 and a lot of small companies, we're hearing like, you must buy a robot, like buy a robot right now. This is what you need to do. And I saw so many examples of small companies who did exactly as you said, invested in an automation tool without, and then either under-planned or under-resourced the implementation of that tool or the weaving of that tool into their existing workflows and the people element of it as well. So yeah, the change management is a huge piece to consider when adopting any sort of new technology or innovation. But Mark, I'll turn it over to you actually. Moving forward as we look to these companies and anticipate their growth, what kinds of challenges do you think they might be anticipating? And alongside those challenges, I think always come opportunities. So what opportunities are there as well for growth in this sector?
Yeah, out of fear of being redundant, I think labor and skill gap is something we've heard a lot about today. I've been working with SMEs my entire career, and pre-pandemic, we were hearing those challenges, especially in the manufacturing sector. The pandemic only exacerbated things, and while that gap has been alleviated a little bit over the coming out of the pandemic, we're still very much in a position where that pressure remains high. We've got low unemployment, and, I think Jason mentioned it earlier as well, the manufacturing workforce is aging rapidly. More than a quarter of the workers over 55 years old. So this really implies that companies will continue to struggle to find workers in the years ahead. That's a problem that's not going anywhere. Another challenge, and I'll kind of say it's a challenge opportunity, Canada's race to build a clean net zero economy. Some consider this to be the most significant economic transformation, or one of, since the Industrial Revolution. Represents a challenge, and it represents an enormous opportunity for Canadian manufacturing sector. As I mentioned previously, international buyers are not looking at Canadian companies to replace a widget that they can find elsewhere cheaper. They're looking to Canada for guidance and leadership on how to do things smarter and in a more innovative fashion. So I think, touching on the opportunity side of things, that's really where I see it. I think the process and product innovation are really key to Canadian companies combating both of these challenges and finding a way to prosper in the face of what's a challenge that's impacting all businesses internationally. And I think we're really well positioned to do it.
Yeah, that's great. So, on my script, it says we're just about out of time, but I feel like we've been really efficient with our time. And I feel like I've learned a lot, and I've really enjoyed the conversation, because what it has reminded me of, not that I'd forgotten, but is what a rich ecosystem we have here in this region, but also in Canada, in terms of the innovation assets and supports that we have. So, certainly we have like an EDC or a BDC. We also have certainly the post-secondaries, including Conestoga, and the supports that we would provide through Smart Center. But we also have each other, and we have a really rich ecosystem here where everyone is trying something, everyone's looking to embrace innovation, and there's a boatload of learning that we can do just in forums like this in terms of sharing with each other, because some of those failures that we see when people are exploring new ideas and embracing innovation, sometimes we can avoid them if someone else did it first. So this type of forum and having that open conversation, I think, is another really important opportunity and a benefit that we have to being in this region. So thank you all for what you've added to the richness of that conversation. I think it's been really great. And I'd like to turn it over to you guys for any kind of final thoughts or things that you hope this audience takes away from the conversation that we've been having around innovation and how we use innovation to fuel growth. And maybe I'll turn it over to you, Natalie, first.
Yes, thank you. First of all, yes, innovation is really grows, and those who are not from technological companies, there is some misunderstanding a little bit. People are afraid of technology, afraid of AI, unfortunately. But again, please see it only as a tool which can make your work much more efficient, business much more profitable. And again, if you're talking about AI deployment, if you're talking about supply chain, it's always about two things: efficiency and very extremely high ROI. So efficiency, ROI, this is what AI will bring to you. So don't be afraid of technology.
I think that's a great message to take away. Mark?
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. I think in a landscape that is very technologically oriented, such as manufacturing, I think things change so quickly that it's of course important to focus on the key fundamentals. Your ROI, your profitability, all these things are obviously pivotal for a business owner, but don't take your eye off the future, because this is still a global landscape, and while there are nearshoring trends, and we're seeing a lot of that in the wake of the pandemic, I think the reality is we are competing against businesses and nation states worldwide, and processes and products, new widgets, new mousetraps. These things are moving quickly, so it's important that we, as the Canadian economy, continue to invest in R&D and in the future of the health of the Canadian manufacturer.
Yeah, here on investment in R&D. I think that's some really solid advice. especially as we think about growth, right? Growth is not going to happen within these four walls. It's going to happen out there. And so keeping our eye on what's happening out there is really important. Luis, you've already provided us with so many, I've been making notes, good takeaways in terms of embracing innovation for growth, but what would you like to maybe specifically leave the audience with thinking about from our discussion?
Well, automation and robotics is inevitable. Every business has to embrace it. But, some tips I would like to leave behind is, it's a cliche. Don't put the cart before the horse. Don't just buy the first robotic equipment that you think, whether it be a vertical storage system that we've implemented for a client or a palletizer, without having a robust process in place. Make sure it's very consistent, because there's no sense in buying the latest robotic equipment if your staff are doing things differently, cutting, forming, or processing invoicing to make it basic. Make sure it's consistent before you invest in technologies or equipment. And then the other thing is to ensure that you have a good team, instill a culture of continuous improvement so that the gains are sustainable. It's not just, it's a one-off project. Make sure everybody's trained on continuous improvement and solicit input from the team. And then solicit input from third party as well, because it's always good to have a third set of eyes to look at your process and your business operations and question and challenge your team as to, hey, how can we do it differently? And then focus on people, because it's going to be big changes.
What a beautiful spot to end. Focus on how we do things differently. So thank you so much to all three of you for joining me here today. I think it was a really great discussion. Appreciated your comments. I'll invite Ian back to the stage, and with thanks to him for allowing me to participate in this fascinating panel. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, just as we wrap up, let me start by saying, for those of you that know me, you'll know that I'm not the sharpest knife in the drawer. And the reason I know that is because I read Mark's bio and I know it's just as impressive as Glenn's, but I read it right after I read Glenn's bio, when I got the appropriate skip that my staff gave me, and I promptly left somewhere. So thank you to all of the panelists, in particular Mark, for his graciousness and not being too upset. You got it. I'm going to take you over a beer. But thank you to Mark and Natalie, Luis, and Michelle for the insightful discussion today. As we wrap up, I think I certainly feel as though I know more, smarter about the issues that face the industry, and better understand the opportunities for our advanced manufacturing sector. And I think we all have lots of work to do as partners, as manufacturers and supply chain, to tell the story, to help connect people with institutions like NextGen and EDC, BDC, the college, the universities, and other business partners, because we have a huge opportunity, and we have to take advantage of that opportunity as we grow to be 1 million people. We need the jobs and the prosperity that comes from a sector that is 1/4 of our economy in southwestern Ontario. And for our continued success, we better hope that it continues to be 1/4 of our economy, if not more. As we wrap up, I do want to thank our partners and sponsors once again. I say this all the time, but without our partners and sponsors, these types of events don't happen. So for our exhibitors, but also in particular our sponsors, our gold sponsors, BDC, Conestoga College Institute of Technology and Advanced Learning, Cowan Insurance Group, Export Development Canada, Miller Thompson LLP, MNP LLP, Streamline Plan Solutions, Toyota Motor Manufacturing Canada, and Waterloo EDC. Our silver sponsor, Next Generation Manufacturing. Our bronze sponsor, Cushman & Wakefield Waterloo Region. And to our community partner, EY. Our ambassadors and partners in the community, the Center for Family Business, the Excellence in Manufacturing Consortium, and the City of Kitchener. Also, a special thank you to our co-host, the Guelph Chamber of Commerce, to Shakiba and her team for working with the Greater KW Chamber to put this on and helping us to have such a wonderful facility here today at Linamar. To Linda Hasenfras and her team, thank you for welcoming us here for today's events. And to our event partners, Platters Catering and Events, Goodco Productions, Tomas Adonsky Photography, and our friend Shakiba and her team. And finally, thank you to all of you for participating today and for your continued support of the Chamber Network, and our business community. Finally, we encourage you to stick around for a few more minutes. There's still some food and refreshments at the back. Our exhibitors are here. Please take some time to network with one another and our exhibitors who are in attendance today. We look forward to having you join us at another Greater KW Chamber event soon. Thanks very much, and have a great afternoon.